se ja nacististët Jugoslav.
Mi smo more krvi prolili za bratstvo i jedinstvo naših naroda.
Građani, agresija je završena. Mir je nadvladao.
Hoće gospodin Karadžić više niko, neće više niko možda u Srpsku.
Republika Hrvatska proglašuje.
Nemojte da mislite da nećete odvesti Bosnu i Hercegovinu u pakao.
Hello everyone, dear listeners and all people interested in happenings in the Balkans. My name is Jakub Horvat, your usual guest, again speaking English because I have a friend who is here with me, an expert on Balkans. You have heard him before, and it's again Árpad Párducz. Hello, welcome on my podcast.
Hi Jakub, thank you for the invitation.
We did it the last time, short introduction to yourself, but please repeat because maybe some people jump to this episode instead of the Kosovo one.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a PhD student at the Corvinus University of Budapest, and before that I worked at the Migration Research Institute and the Institute for Strategic Studies and the Hungarian Institute for International Affairs, and all these places I covered the Western Balkans, both in a security and foreign policy standpoint and also the inner workings of the countries in the region.
It's a great resume. I mean, when I talk about the Balkans, okay, I was desk officer for the Western Balkans at the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs of the Slovak Republic. I covered Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia, North Macedonia, etc. So Turkey when it came up, but I don't have the complex resume you do. Why did we meet today? We are meeting today to discuss Balkans again. We did Kosovo last time, we did Serbian protests before that, and now we are continuing with
Albania today and the recent elections.
Yes, Albania. We haven't covered Albania that much on this podcast. It has been pretty successful story, a stable country which is proceeding very quickly with its European integration, and it is a great NATO ally. But please, do your thing. Tell us something about Albania, recent elections, and also please some background into Albanian politics.
So since Albania got its independence from the communist rule, it had its fair share of trouble because of the pyramid scheme in the 1990s, when the 2/3 of the Albanians had their savings in pyramid schemes, because which ones also obviously crashed, and this is induced quasi-civil war because the armories of the police stations and the Albanian army were looted and there were fighting in the streets. So
it's actually an incredible story. We did a whole episode just about this one. It's in Slovak language, but it's an incredible story that a Ponzi scheme ran by also some people in the government collapsed the country's economic, which led into civil unrest and foreign intervention to stabilize the country. It's an incredible story.
Yes, it's induced Operation Alba, which was one of the first missions in the Western Balkans, which not related directly to the dissolution of Yugoslavia. And after that, as you said it, Albania remained a pretty peaceful place, and there was the two-party system in the political life, which consisted the center-right Democratic Party, led by Sali Berisha, and the center-left Socialist Party, which first was led by Fatos Nano, and now is currently led by the Prime Minister since 2013, Edi Rama.
So Edi Rama, I'm sorry to stop you here because we cannot not speak about Edi Rama. He's a very charismatic guy. He has a very unique look. He has his head completely shaven, and he has this interesting way of talking, and he has fantastic. I would recommend everyone to hear him talking at the UN and UN Security Council while they were a temporary member of the Security Council. It's a great stuff.
Yeah, and Edi Rama is the mainstay in the Albanian politics, and we can say that he was a painter, he was a basketball player, and he got educated in both in the Albanian academies of art and basketball or sport, and he is coming from a family which was really close with the communist rule. So the father was a sculptor and he got really great connections with the party, and in his mother's side he had relatives who were part of the Politburo of the Albanian Communist Party, and after the fall of communism he started to get involved in the life of politics and started none other place but at the center-right Democratic Party, but he had differences of opinions with Sali Berisha, who is the other mainstay in the Albanian political life, and this is why he left the country and returned only in 1997, and after that in 1998 when he was attacked. And most of the times there is speculation that the attackers were members of the Albanian Secret Service because of Rama's critics of the regime.
I would add that Albanian politics, also in the past, it was quite hardcore. I mean, during the communist times, Albania was not in Yugoslavia. It was its own state. It was one of the best defended states in the world, with incredible number of bunkers, huge military. It had its own submarine fleet, and it all turned out to be useless, and the country's economy was doing poorly, and there were very often claims of attempted assassinations and attempted coups from Yugoslavia to topple the Albanian regime, and there was always this kind of tension between the two countries.
Yeah, and the Yugoslav authorities also claimed that every time when a protest or something happened in Kosovo, the Sigurimi, the Albanian Secret Service, was in fact behind it and supported everything.
Yes, it was the regime of Enver Hoxha who had his own idea about what kind of country he wanted to have, and he made up his mind he wants to have a autocracy without any religious freedom, just the Communist Party, almost like Maoism, I believe.
Yeah, and he had a great relation with Mao at first and also with Stalin, but after the death of Stalin he came apart from the new Soviet elite, so Albania remained to do its own thing, as you mentioned, and it was really repressive, so most of the people were socialized in that style of thinking. And when Rama returned, he got a place in the current socialist government at that time, and he was the Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, and he was quite youthful. He had a very different style which was used as an Albanian politician, so he dressed differently, he spoke differently, and this is why he gained so much attention and so much support. And after the elections, the socialists lost power, and Rama ran for the mayor of Tirana, but as an independent, and he won. And he won 2 more times, but the last time he was also the candidate of the Socialist Party, and after it he tried to run for mayor of Tirana 4th time, but he lost that election, and after that he became the head of the Socialist Party, and with that de facto the leader of the opposition, and he reimagined, so to say, the Socialist Party from an old communist institution to a modern Blairian third way left-wing party. And he also said that we not thinking in the old relations like left and right, we thinking about a new third way, so just like Tony Blair said. And since that he controlled its grip on the party, and he filled the important positions with loyalists, and what's more important, with young capable politicians, and this bought victory for them in the 2013 elections and also onwards. And I think it's a different path to speak about the Edi Rama, or speak about Edi Rama as a prime minister, not just an opposition politician.
Yeah, so that's basically background to Edi Rama, who is now currently at the heart of Albanian politics and has been for some time. He is I believe, the second longest running politician in the Balkans, besides Aleksandar Vučić in Serbia. But Rama has been PM, like prime minister, while Vučić has changed his positions from president to prime minister. So now to the recent Albanian elections. Please give us some background, and what was the campaign and how did it finish for the ruling party?
Yes, so it was the penultimate, so to say, election for Edi Rama, because before him, no one managed to clinch a fourth victory as a prime minister, and we can see that he didn't manage that as a mayor of Tirana, so the pressure was quite high, and the campaign was really interesting because there were accusations of corruption, vote buying, and everything like that, and also the Corruption Authority of Albania, SPAK, jailed Ilir Meta, who was a former socialist politician and the former president of Albania, and also Sali Berisha, the leader of the opposition Democratic Party, was placed on house arrest, so he had to campaign from his own home basically, and also because of these rulings, the opposition supporters took the streets and the police had to use tear gas to block them up, and there were Molotov cocktails thrown. But it needs to be mentioned that the Corruption Authority doesn't work just against the opposition. For example, Edi Rama's likely heir, the current mayor of Tirana, was also jailed for corruption charges. So this was the background for the elections, and the elections came a huge fallout of the Democratic Party, which merged with infightings for over 2 years. So it wasn't that big of a surprise, and Edi Rama clinched the fourth term as a prime minister, so most of the times he thinks and speaks as the leader of all Albanians living either in Albania, Kosovo, or other parts of the Western Balkans.
So that to the elections, but I would also like to touch on a very important subject regarding Albania, and that's the EU integration. Up until recently, until 2023, Macedonia and Albania were basically at the same pace regarding negotiations, and the European Union was trying to open the negotiations between both countries at the same time, which it did, which was a bad idea actually, because while Albania didn't have any internal political issues or external, it was not the case for North Macedonia, who had a neighborly issue with Bulgaria, which made some demands as EU member towards North Macedonia, and there was sort of French proposal which said that North Macedonia has to amend its constitution and add Bulgarian minority in writing at the constitution, even though it's barely 1,000 people according to the latest census. So North Macedonia had quite a baggage. The negotiations were opened, but for North Macedonia only formally. They are not progressing and opening any new chapters, while Albania is so well ahead. What is the current status of the negotiations?
Yes, so the Albanian government stance on EU accession can easily described by a comment from Edi Rama, in which he said that Europe is not our pet, it's our own religion, and they are really working forward to it. And according to opinion polls, in 2012, the 86% of the Albanians was in favor of EU integration, and now in 2024, it's around 91%. So basically the whole country wants this and thinks this is the next step for Albania to take. And as you mentioned, Albania was grouped with North Macedonia to advance together, but that didn't manage. So they started the negotiation roundup in 2020, and so far they are opened 24 accession chapters out of the possible 33, so they are in quite a good place, and they are thriving and going forward in a good place, and it's mainly can be credited for the whole political sector, which was underwent drastic changes, and even the voting law and the corruption laws and the voting system got revamped for the EU accession's sake, with Western support from the European Union, of course, and from the United States as well. So this is one big part of it, and now we can say that Montenegro and Albania are the front runners for EU accession, and most of the timelines mention 2030 as an end goal, but with that I'm a bit skeptical, but I think yes, out of the countries from the region, these two has the greatest possibility to be members of the European Union.
Hopefully it will be a success story. They are both on a good path. For Montenegro, they were like the poster child of EU accession among the Western Balkan countries, except Croatia, of course. But they had a lot of political fallout from the elections once Đukanović lost the elections, and there was a lot of political instability. And I think they lost like 2 years because of the instability of the non-working constitutional courts. There were laws which were unconstitutional. They had to be struck down, and there was some mess in the background. I'm not aware of such issues in Albania. Yes, as you said, rule of law was important thing, and economic reform, but they are well on their way.
Yes, in this regard, but most of the times what is presented as a problem is Edi Rama's style of ruling or style of governing, because he is often described as autocratic, so maybe this need to be changed for moving forward in the accession in the future, but so far they're moving at a great pace.
Yes, 2030 is very optimistic, but us Central European countries, we know very well if you really, really wish it, then EU is a reachable goal. I mean, now in Slovakia, we said we were too anxious. Some of the laws even constitutional laws, which we adapted, it was too rushed. I mean, too much legal baggage was left afterwards, but it was what Slovaks really wanted, and I can relate to the Albanians.
Yes, Central Europe and Bulgaria and Croatia are good examples for both Montenegro and for Albania to follow, because we demonstrated either as regions or different countries in themselves that this is a path worth taking and a path which is doable, and it has an end goal, and this end goal is achievable.
Yes, and now something little different. Sometimes there is talk about greater Albania, about Albanians living together in one maybe Muslim state, even though in past Albania was non-religious, and it's interesting that Albania is not actually a Muslim majority country. What is this idea, Greater Albania?
Yeah, basically the idea of Greater Albania was born under the Ottoman rule, and the League of Prizren, because is basically the brainchild of the Albanian independence and Albanian movement, so to say independence movement, and they envisaged all the four not Muslim but Albanian majority or Albanian speaking minarets of the Ottoman world need to be united either to one or either to exist together at an independent country, and this is meaning that this quasi-state would consist territories from Greece, from North Macedonia, from Serbia, from Montenegro, from North Macedonia, so it basically new great state or new great country in the heart of the region, which was marred by territorial disputes and other things. And when we take this to account, we can see that this is not possible, and most of the times even the public who is most of the times in these countries, either in Kosovo or Albania, as pro-unification, most of the times thinks that this will not happen, or this will be a protected battle or a protected fight to make this happen, but most of the times they are speaking about greater unison with the governments of Kosovo and governments of Albania, which is happening. They are having joint government sessions, and they are working really closely together in different topics like economy and tourism, but we need to also take that into account, that these regions in these countries developed really in their own place and in really with their own customs. So even the Kosovars are basically have to adapt to life when they are going to vacation in Albania, and it's all the same with the Greeks or with the Albanians living in Greece and the other countries I mentioned before as well. So this wouldn't be just some easy ride which happens in 2 or 3 days. It would be a really long process, and also we didn't talk about the minorities which would live under this state, so it's really interesting, but also the international community doesn't support this, so I wouldn't say that it would happen even in the long term. So
yeah, I absolutely share these ideas. It's very outdated and very much focused on the ethnicity, not taking into account that these are very often different cultures. The people have been living in different places, as you mentioned, and under different political system, and they share ethnicity. I mean, if we want to make some comparisons, I think in the Balkans, the closest cooperation which is happening is probably with the Serbs in living Republika Srpska, and in Serbia, these two Serbian majority entities have worked closely regarding security, also during the Yugoslav wars, and economically, politically. So this is probably the closest relation, and the Serbs living in Montenegro as well. But these are not as in line with Serbian politics and politicians from Republika Srpska.
Yes, and also Albin Kurti, the current Prime Minister of Kosovo, said that yes, they are working towards a greater unison between Kosovo and Albania, but it would be interesting to see that who will be the leading player, or so to say shot caller in this occasion, because when we are talking about Serbs, we know who it is. It's Aleksandar Vučić in every question which is asked. It has to go through him. And in this case, we need to ask that it will be Albin Kurti or it will be Edi Rama. So it's an open-ended question, and I'm really interested. What are you thinking about it?
Yes, I think they are all living in their individual environments and living their own life stories and their country stories. They are both big personalities, Kurti and Rama. Personally, I favor Rama. I don't know. He just speaks more to me as a character, sort of. Albin Kurti is too shouty for me, I would say. I don't like his style that much, but Kosovars like it.
Yeah, and also my pick would be Edi Rama as well, and for that reason also that I think he's a more experienced politician, because don't misunderstand me, Kurti handles the crowd well, handles Kosovo well. He has unforeseen approval and unforeseen support for its movement, but Edi Rama had to fight with Sali Berisha and he won that fight. He had to fight with Ilir Meta and he won that fight, and he had to fight with another head of the Democratic Party, Luzin Basha, and he won that fight, and he even negotiated a migration deal with Giorgia Meloni, and he also works with the British, works with the Americans, so he is much more versed in the international affairs as well, the EU integration as well, and he also has a more stable country as well.
Yes, well, Edi Rama and his governments were the ones who started the EU negotiation process. During his government, they joined NATO. They are a great NATO ally. They enjoy 100% common foreign and security policy unison with the European Union. And Edi Rama is a recognized person in world politics. I mean, he represented his country very well at UN Security Council, and Albin Kurti is Kosovar politician, successful one. He has his own demons, so to speak, regarding relation to Serbia, but it's not a worldwide active country. It's still encompassed in its own bubble, while Edi Rama and his country is out there and they are doing a successful job.
Yes, and they are also can be, so to say, the darling to every political position, because he is also tough on migration. We can see with this deal, and it's applicable for the right-wing parties. He also socialist and left-leaning, which is good for the left-leaning parties, so he can play all the cards. And for Kurti, it's hard not to speak about Serbia all the time or the association of Serb majority municipalities and things like this, because yes, for Kosovo it's important, but if you want to call the shots or maybe guide other parties or other parts of the region as well, you need to be somebody like Edi Rama, and we can see this through the Open Balkan initiative as well, because he was the main proprietors of it.
I would explain the Open Balkans initiative. It's sort of, they call it mini Schengen, or like a Balkans Schengen, where the movement between countries in the Balkans is open. You can cross borders via ID, and the academic titles are recognized between the institutions, and therefore it's easier to get jobs. So it's a successful project. It really is. But in comments to our Albanian episodes, we had big criticism of current state of Albania. Even though yes, Edi Rama has become famous, it doesn't reflect on the Albanian economy. That the wages are really low, unemployment is really high, migration is through the roof. A lot of young Albanians are moving out to live in better conditions.
Yes, so basically about the Albanian economy was hit by 3 external shocks this past 6 years, I would say. First was the earthquake, and then was the COVID-19 pandemic, then the economic effects of the war in Ukraine. So these are also caused problems because the Albanian economy is heavily reliant on the tourism sector to bring in economic growth and money, and these shocks deflated the sector, but they are doing well this time. The GDP growth is, I think, around 6% most of the years, and I think 5 or 6% is projected for this year as well. And they are mostly working on things which will make the average Albanian's life better as well. For example, railway project to make public transport more feasible, more energy project mostly for renewables like sun and wind, and also they are working very close with the European Union, and its economic support is very much needed to make these prospects viable. And you mentioned migration, and it's a really great problem because there are claims that more Albanians living outside Albania than in Albania, and according to the demographic research, most of the times the Albanian population will going to shrink to around 3-4 millions, and mostly in Albania there are some jobs which already filling this. For some example, in the more rural regions, hospitals needed to be shut down because the staff and the doctors as well emigrated to Germany, for example.
I'm not sure how the things are on the ground, but EU accession process, it's a fantastic thing, but EU will not solve all of the issues which are already existing. So by 2030, we'll see, we can meet again and we'll discuss if Albania reached its goal and how does it feel to be finally there. Thank you, Árpad, for coming to our podcast. We did quite a long episode. I'm surprised it's actually much longer than Kosovo. Who would have thought? Albania is a great story to discuss.
Yeah, Albania was my first foray into Balkans, so maybe this is the reason, but let's do this. Let's check up in 2030 and do one episode about Albania as well. So thank you for the invitation.
It's a deal, so see you next time.
See you.